Welcome back to the channel, guys. This was my first day of driving the car. I just got back home. The car performed very well, definitely happy with it. There's a couple more things that I still do need to do to it, and also some things that did pop up while I was driving it that I will need to address. So let's go ahead and start this video out. I'm going to show you one of the parts that I'm going to be installing on it. I have one more performance mod that we're going to be doing to it today, so I'll just go over that first here. So this is a performance, it's a MPX crankshaft pulley kit. So in here we have some directions, and then you have your actual crankshaft piece right here. So this is the very tiny crankshaft right here, crankshaft pulley, and it's going to come with 3 bolts for it right here. There's 3 bolts that go in this and hold it in place. And then there's also in here another little sprocket gear, and this goes on the very back side of it. So this pulley right here is significantly lighter than the stock pulley. A significant reduction in weight that we're going to be taking off of this engine, and should allow it to spin more freely, which in turn is going to make more power. I think there's like a 6 to 8 horsepower or torque at the wheel difference compared to the stock pulley. So it is a little bit of a gain. Might not be super noticeable, but it's definitely going to make a little bit more power with that. So we're going to be doing that install for today. I'm going to get to that. There's one other thing I'm going to show you inside the car, and this is I did get another check engine light that did pop up. So let's go ahead, scan the codes, and see what we got going on in here. We're just getting the scanner hooked up right now, and we're going to check these codes. I believe there was actually possibly there was quite a few different codes that were popping up. I believe it's related to 2 different things. So here's the first one that we have right here that I was referring to. This is P0420, and this is the crankcase ventilation system is disconnected. So we'll keep scrolling down and see what else we have. So same thing. Okay, this is a different one right here. So this is P0420, catalyst system efficiency below the threshold for bank 1. So this one right here, I'm pretty sure is going to be the catalyst downpipe that we installed. I did mention previously that it can cause your car to run lean. I wasn't really seeing any issues with my AFR gauge with the car while I was driving it, but however, after driving it for a little bit, I did notice when you're not on the gas and when you're in gear, this is going to want to bottom out all the way to lean until you get back on the gas, and then it'll go right back up. Or when you shift the car just into neutral, it drops all the way to lean, and then it will idle back to normal. So there is a very short period of time that the car is wanting to run lean. Now, I do have a tune for the car. I have the Euro Compulsion handheld tuner, and this is something that allows me to get a tune for it, for this catalyst downpipe, and it should take care of that issue. So I do want to get that taken care of sooner than later, because I do not want this car running poorly. So we're going to get that sorted out very soon. I'm pretty sure that that's what it's going to be, is once we get the tune, it should take care of that. So same thing here. This is the same code as the first one with that crankcase. This is the same thing as the second one for the cat. Okay, so there's 6 codes, but it's only stemming from 2 different issues. We have the crankcase ventilation, and we have the catalyst downpipe issue. The one I'm going to be taking care of today, and I did some research on, is going to be the crankcase ventilation system. So that's going to be this one right here, P04DB. Why are we getting this crankcase ventilation code popping up on the car? Well, if you've watched previously in one of my videos, I did just install the Euro Compulsion intake here. So, and with this, I did have to do some rerouting with all these hoses in here. So because this is a 2016 model, the hosing is a little bit different and it's a little bit more complex. Now, I previously mentioned in that you pretty much just make sure all the hoses do go basically to a port on this, and specifically Well, that's why I have the check engine, because that's not 100% correct. There's one thing that I missed and that you need to do. So the crankcase ventilation hose for this is going to be referring to this hose right up here in the very back that goes to your AOS system here. So if we follow this all the way down, this is only, it's not, I don't have this teat or anything. It goes straight to my intake right here. Now, the reason that we're pulling a check engine light is because there is a sensor right on the back of the engine here, right here on top. And this is the sensor that reads that crankcase ventilation system and make sure that there is air getting in here. So basically, all that we need to do, and it's not that big of a deal, is we just need to put a T into this and connect it to this sensor here, so this sensor can read that it's getting a signal from this crankcase hose right here. So I have a T, and I also do have a reducer to use for this. So we're just gonna swap this around, and I'll show you how to do it real quick, and the T parts that you're going to need for it, so you have the proper sizes if you're doing this yourself. I just removed the hose from this sensor right here that was previously routed going over to here, and it was teed into this other same size hose that's right down here. So now this hose only routes to this, and what we need to do is we'll make a cut halfway in this. I'll probably cut it right about here. I'm going to place our fitting. So we need two fittings here. We need a 3/8 inch T fitting, just like this. So that'll go right there. And then you're going to need a super small section of hose, because we do need to reduce this down to fit our very small hose size, which is a 4mm. So that's what this super small hose is right here, that goes to the bottom side of this and fits onto this fitting. So I have a reducer right here, and this is a 3/8 inch to a 1/4 inch, which 1/4 inch is like 6mm. So this hose will stretch over it. I just confirmed that it will work. So that's what we're gonna do. Here's the new setup that we're rocking with our crankcase ventilation hose here. So there's where I did my T, and then I reduced it down. These clamps are a little bit big. I would like to change these out once I get some better size ones. I just ran out of these other ones that I had. So I reduced it down to the 4mm hose, and then I just looped this around, and it goes back and underneath to the crankcase sensor right there. So that's what's gonna work for right now. I think that'll be fine. Hopefully that will take care of my check engine light. We are gonna clear the codes on this just to make sure it does not come back, and I'll find out in the next day or so. If it does come back, I'll keep an eye out, but that issue hopefully will be taken care of with the intake. So now we can move on to installing our new crank pulley. For starting this, we're going to get this car jacked up, and we're going to remove the front passenger wheel. I also am going to take out the wheel liner. That is just going to give us better access to this, so I can show you guys what's going on. So I'll just do a quick time lapse and we'll get this off. If you look down in here, you have your crank pulley right there behind these hoses. So that is where it's going to be. First thing we're going to need to do is get this belt, get this accessory belt off of this crank pulley, so that way we can remove it. Now you can get to the tensioner pulley, which is going to be up a little bit higher. It's up there. I was actually looking, you can get to this from the top side, so I'll show you where it's at the top. So if you look down in here, it's going to be underneath this motor mount. Right, it's going to be this one right here. So this is going to be the pulley that you're going to need to get a wrench on. It is a 15mm, and we're going to pull up on this. So if you're going from the bottom, you're still going to push up on it. I'm going from the top, so I'm just going to be pulling up, but I can get to it from the top. And while you're pulling up on it, just take the belt and slide it off one of the pulleys, and it'll remove it. So I'm going to do that here. I'll see if I can get that on camera too. Okay, and then I just took it off just like so, so loosely set it back. We can get this belt off this crank pulley down here too as well. and then we're going to remove those 3 bolts on the very inside there with our impact. So we'll do that next once I get this belt off. These bolts are a 13 millimeter. We're just gonna hit these with the impact and remove all of them. Okay, once you do that, your pulley should drop. So I'm gonna set this down and remove it so I don't damage this one. We have the old pulley off here. I'm curious to know what the difference is in weight. So I did pull out a scale and we're just going to weigh the 2 different pulleys and see how much they are. So I have the OEM bolts in here too as well. And then we're gonna weigh everything out over here with these bolts that came included in the kit. So let's get the old one on here first. Zero out the scale. All right, so stock pulley weighs 2 pounds and 14 ounces. So let's try out our new one. Everything on there. So 2 pounds and just over an ounce. So that's a difference of about 7 ounces. So we're shaving 7 ounces off the car, and supposedly that's going to be gains of roughly about 7 horsepower. That's about what it is. So let's slap this new one on here, get everything torqued up, and throw this belt on, and we should be good to go. For installing this kit, we're gonna start off with this piece right here. So this is gonna go on first. One thing you'll notice is there's 3 bolt holes, and then you have this little teeny tiny hole right here. That aligns up with this piece on the crankshaft. So if you take a look on my top right there, dead center, so that's the little dowel pin that's going to go into this little hole right here. So we're just gonna get those aligned up, and we will put this on there. The other thing to note too as well is there are 2 sides to this. So you have one side that has a raised edge, you'll see right there, and then this side has a side that goes in. This raised edge right here is going to go into the car, and this pulley is going to go into the recessed edge over here that goes in. So let's get this dowel pin aligned up. Step 1 should look just like this. And if you do look, I don't know if you can see it or not, but that little dowel pin hole, you can see that pin in there, so you know that that's lined up. Also, if I were to go and try and turn this, shouldn't really turn a whole lot at all. That's how you know that you are aligned up on that. So then we're just going to set this piece on top. It doesn't matter, there's no dowel pin for this that goes through it. It's just the 3 bolt holes that hold this in place. So we'll just match this up with that piece that's on there and then thread the bolts. These bolts, after you get them tight, they're then going to be torqued to 19 foot-pounds. All right, I just installed the belt from the top side, and one of the things I noticed immediately was after verifying everything is on correctly, you can see that it has too much slack in it. Like, it is super loose. Like, I just pulled that off by hand, no problem. So the kit did actually come with a new belt, so this makes sense. So I'd assume that this is, we'll get this out, this is going to be a different size belt if you do use this crank pulley. So this is the part number for it. It's a 5050460, and then there's also this 5PK1170. This is a Dayco belt. We're gonna remove this other one, and this one should be just a little bit smaller and allow us to tension this up, so that way we get good tension on this, because that would not fly. And if you're wondering about the routing, here's the directions that came in the kit just to make things a little bit easier. This is the orientation for the belt. So if you're looking at the car like this, that is how it's going to look. Here's what happened. I went to put on this new belt right here onto our new crank pulley, and come to find out, this was too short. I could not get this to fit on there, and the stock belt is too big. So it's somewhere in between. I looked into it a little bit and did some research. This is actually the incorrect part number for this belt. So I bought this MPX pulley kit on a secondary market. I bought it off of eBay, and whoever sent me this belt sent me the incorrect belt that goes with it. The belt part number does not match what they say to get online. So I'm gonna have to order the correct belt, and once I get that, I will resume and show you guys what the correct belt part number is for this, so that way you guys know what belt to get for this. So what I'm gonna do in the meantime is we're just going to go inside the car and we're going to clear the codes on it, so that way, hopefully, just hopefully, we made at least one accomplishment today with fixing and rerouting the hoses. This just seems to be how this car is going. Nothing is operating smoothly like it's supposed to. It's taking a couple attempts in order to have stuff work out the way it was meant to be. But it is what it is. We're just going along with it. I have the codes pulled up here for the crankcase. So now we're just going to hit erase. So erase it. Yes, clear all the codes. Okay, erase was successful. So I'm gonna go, I will drive this car tomorrow and we will see if this code pops back up. I'm also going to look at getting that belt ordered so that way I can get that ASAP and we can finally get this crank pulley wrapped up. I did pick up, I was having issues with the incorrect size belt. I have now received a different belt to try out and I have the correct proper part numbers for you. We have our new belt here. I picked this up from AutoZone. They cross-reference this part number with the correct part number that I'm looking for. The brand of this is Duralast and the part number is 480K5. Now, looking up the belt size that is correct for this, it is a 50/50 480, and here you see that this is 480. So that's how they match this. Depending on what different brand you go with, it may be a different part number, but there's also a part number for Dayco for 50/50 459. That's also another belt that will work. I'm gonna post all the part numbers in the description below. Basically, I just need to pull the old one off. I already showed you guys kind of how to do it, and then we'll slap this new one on. I will confirm this did work. We do have the belt on there now, so that was the correct and proper size. Make sure you go over each and every pulley and make sure that the belt is on properly. You don't want any parts of it hanging off, because it can damage your belt or damage other important things to this engine. Last thing to do is we just need to torque up these bolts on the actual crank pulley. 19 foot-pounds is what the instructions called for. Now that those are torqued up, we'll just reinstall the wheel cover, put everything back here, and this is set to go. You're good to test drive it, see if it makes a difference or not. It is also supposed to help with the laggy throttle response on this car. With that, that completes this install. Hopefully you learned something, and I will see you in the next one.